Hey guys, I want to speak for a few minutes about what I believe it means to be a neurodivergent affirming or neurodiversity affirming professional. I spoke to this a couple weeks ago on Instagram, and I've been thinking more about it. And I want to break it down and kind of expand it to talk about professionals as a whole and not just therapists, because I know that I interact with a lot of people outside of just therapists. I interact with teachers, speech language pathologists, some OTs, physical therapists, psychologists, some doctors, um, a lot of different professions that interact with neurodivergent individuals. So this can be a little more broad, but I think it applies to all of the professions that I listed, plus plenty more. Okay, so 3 points that I'm going to make, and then after that, I'd love to hear feedback if any of you have anything else that you would want to add to the list. So number one, I think to be a neurodivergent or neurodiversity affirming professional, you need to understand the basics of neurodiversity, which means staying up to date on it. I'm not saying that you need to read journal articles on a daily basis, weekly basis, or monthly basis. I'm not saying that. But to keep up with what does it mean? Where are we at in the neurodiversity movement in the big picture right now? If what you learned about different neurodivergences was in maybe graduate school or in your undergrad 5 years ago, honestly, even 2 years ago, it may be out of date now. I know that's true for me as a clinical social worker. And when I've interacted with a lot of professionals, and I do, what I have learned is across the board, what we were taught, whether it was recent or decades ago, what we were taught in school does not align with most of the current understandings of neurodivergence. Therefore, it doesn't align with neurodiversity. These weren't words that were taught in my graduate program. So part of being a neurodiversity or neurodivergent affirming professional is keeping up with the neurodiversity movement, at least somewhat, and understanding the basics of what does it mean to be neurodivergent and how that's not viewed as a negative or a deficit. It's viewed as a difference. And neurodiversity exists. And I have a video, a brief one, on what is neurodiversity. So you can also check that out too for a little bit more information about what is neurodiversity. Number two, part of being neurodiversity affirming or neurodivergent affirming means that you are open to learning and listening, in particular to those who have lived experience. The experts on the experience of being ADHD, being autistic, are ADHD and autistic people. The expert on what it feels like and what it's like to be dyslexic or have other learning differences, learning disabilities, are those who have that experience. Now, we may not always have the language to describe our experience, but we're the experts of our own experience. And in many counseling professions, I'm a social worker, we are taught that an individual is the expert of their own experience, but that doesn't historically has not always translated into discussions of neurodivergent experiences. So if you want to be affirming, you need to listen to people and you need to learn from people who have that lived experience and not discount them as they share. And people who claim to be experts on another people group, on another identity, I think it's okay for us to be a little bit skeptical of them until we understand that they are basing their work off of listening to those who have lived experience. I think we're probably a decade away from good research on this as research designs are beginning to shift and change. Easy example, and I won't go into detail with this, but some therapeutic approaches that have been viewed and held as mainstream for years, as we are now studying them from different perspectives, how effective they are is no longer seen in the same way as it was before, because now we're looking at multiple aspects. I know I'm keeping it vague. That's unintentional, but it's very important. So number three, to be neurodivergent or neurodiversity affirming means that you adjust your work or your practice or what you do based on what you learn. When we learn more, we incorporate it. Maybe you're a teacher and you learn a little bit from one student about their own experience and you incorporate that into your work. We accommodate people when needed. And sometimes we just recognize we need to overhaul what we're doing. We need to interact with people in different ways. We need to change our approaches. That is being neurodiversity affirming. Our work evolves as our knowledge evolves. The world is evolving. The information we know to be true today is not what we understood to be true even a year or two ago. It is truly, this is a space that is changing rapidly, and be affirming. We need to be aware of that, and we need to incorporate that into our work. We need to incorporate differences. We need to not say, well, this is how we've always done it, so this is how it needs to be done. We need to avoid saying things like, well, you just got to try harder. Instead, we need to listen to people. We need to incorporate these differences and these needs into our work. So those are my 3 points. Understanding a basic idea of neurodiversity, being open to learning, listening to lived experience, and then adjusting what you do based off what you learn. What would you add? I'm curious about that. Let me know in the comments below. Reach out to me, interact with me, subscribe, like, follow. I'm on Instagram as well at Sam Air Counseling. Hope you connect. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching.